It's now my pleasure to introduce Stacy Miller, who is being recognized as one of our newest master teachers. Stacy?
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and good afternoon. I teach math to 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students in the Fairport Central School District. For those of you who don't know, that's in Rochester, New York. Many of my students are on the cusp of high school graduation and about to begin the next chapter of their lives. I want them to have every chance to succeed. Programs that encourage them to challenge themselves are crucial to creating these opportunities. Creative initiatives like the Governor's Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, or STEM incentive program, are the perfect example, giving scholarships to help high-performing students pursue their education at some of the best public colleges and universities in the state. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a math teacher. I also know perfectly well that success in education starts early. In addition to being a teacher, I'm a mother of 2 beautiful children. My daughter is currently in 1st grade, where she's working diligently to master the art of reading, writing, and mathematics. She's doing quite well, and I have no doubt that it's because she was enrolled in a pre-K a few years ago. She attended private pre-K because public options were limited in our area. But thanks to Governor Cuomo and the state of New York, soon every 4-year-old in the state will have access to quality pre-K education. What a powerful statement to the families of this state, that every young child, no matter what their circumstances, will have the opportunity to learn and grow at an early age. I come from a big family of teachers. My husband, brother, and sister are all educators as well. And we all know the tremendously important role that teachers play in impacting children's lives and creating a positive learning environment. I'm incredibly excited that I have just been chosen as one of this year's master teachers, a new initiative helping to create a higher caliber learning environment for our children. It is the first of its kind that truly rewards educators who go above and beyond and encourages us to learn from one another. This new approach, incentivizing innovation and treating the field of teaching as the important profession that it is exactly what we need in order to create an environment where all students can succeed. So thank you, Governor Cuomo, for all that you're doing on this issue, because it is truly making a difference in the lives of students across the state. Now, please join me in welcoming the Governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Happy New Year to all of you. And to Stacy Miller, who is a master teacher, which identifies literally the best teachers across the state of New York. She's doing extraordinary work. Let's give her a round of applause. Big welcome to our new Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, who's doing a great job already. To the new Assembly members, welcome you. To the new Senate members, we welcome them. We've been joined by Controller Tom DiNapoli. Pleasure to be with you, Mr. Controller. Let's give him a round of applause. Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, pleasure to be with you, General. Senate Republican Conference Leader Dean Skelos. To a good year, Dean. Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, pleasure to be with you, Mr. Speaker. Independent Conference Leader Jeff Klein, pleasure, Jeff, thank you for being here. To Senate Minority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Pleasure to be with you, Andrea. Assembly Minority Leader Brian Kolb. Thank you, Brian. We have the members of our fine Court of Appeals. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you, Judge. To our host mayor, Kathy Sheehan, thank you very much. To the very tired mayor of the city of New York who went to Paris and back in one day, pleasure to be with you, Mayor. To all the elected officials who are here today, to my colleagues, to our friends, thank you all very much for being here today. Let me begin by thanking the Senate leader and the Assembly leader for their accommodation for my father's passing. The State of the State address was moved back to accommodate the ceremony around my father's passing, and I truly appreciate their consideration in doing that. I also appreciate all the members of the Senate, all the members of the Assembly who came down to pay their respects to my father. It would have meant a lot to him. He had tremendous respect for this body and tremendous respect for the process and for the legislature. And your attendance was overwhelming. Many of you came from distant parts of the state. And I want you to know, heartfelt, on behalf of the Cuomo family, we thank you very much for taking the time to come. And to all New Yorkers, there's been such an outpouring of notes and letters and phone calls. I can't even begin to explain it. So on behalf, again, of my father and my brothers and my sisters, we want to thank all New Yorkers for the respect that they have shown to my father. Now, if my father knew that we delayed the state of the state on his account, he would not be happy. Slowing the function of government is not something that would have been okay with him. So what we've actually done is accelerated the budget by moving the budget up 5 days. And this is going to be the first joint State of the State and budget presentation, and will actually be 5 days ahead of schedule, which would have made my father happy. Now, the good news is, since it's a joint presentation, budget and State of the State, you only have to sit for one presentation. That's the good news. The bad news is it's a 3-hour presentation. So I will do my best to move along. But there's a lot of good work that we've done and a lot of good work that we want to do, that we want to talk about today. What is the State of the State? New York State is back, and New York State is leading the way forward. And none of this would have happened without the work of the people in this room. Look at how far we've come in just a short period of time. 2010, we had an 8.9% unemployment. Today, it's 5.9%. We had chronically low credit ratings. Today, the highest credit ratings in 40 years by all 3 credit rating agencies. Upstate was in a state of decay and decline and alienation, and Upstate is rebuilding everywhere you go today. Taxes and spending were going up, up, and up. And today, we've cut the tax rate to the lowest in 50 years. Property taxes that were going up at about 6% a year are now capped at 2% and then frozen at that rate. When you look at, you should applaud that. It was a period of historic progress, and it has made our state a better state. And it has made life for people in our state better. And that's what this is all about at the end of the day, making life better for people, and that's what we have actually been doing. Now, I won't say it was an easy 4 years. It was a hard 4 years, and it has taken a toll, some greater toll on some of us than others. But look at where we were when we started. Look at how good Dean Skelos looked just 4 years ago. And look at Shelley. 4 years ago, he was looking good. We were like Saturday Night Fever dudes. That's what we were just 4 years ago. And 4 years later, it's really sad. Pictures don't lie. No, it's true. It really is true. But we believe, and I'm sure I speak for Dean and Shelley, it was worth it, and we'd do it all over again, wouldn't we? New York is now a state of opportunity once again, and our goal today is to reach even higher. And that's what our 2015 Opportunity Agenda is all about: economic opportunity, education, public safety, government reform, and fairness for all. We start with the economy because business is the engine that pulls the train. It's all about jobs, jobs, jobs. It was about 4 years ago, and it is today. And it's about keeping the economy growing. And to keep the economy growing, we have to keep doing what we have been doing that got the economy running in the first place. And in two simple words, it is maintaining the fiscal discipline that we have established. Remember where we were 4 years ago. The state of New York was spending more money than the people in the state were earning. I mean, just think about that concept for a moment. The increase in state spending was going up at a faster rate than New Yorkers were actually earning income. And that wasn't 1 or 2 years. That was for 50 years. The rate of spending was higher than the rate of income. We have reversed that trend and actually turned it the other way. The state now spends, over the past 4 years, 1.3%. That compares to 6.8% over the past 50 years. Because it's not a complicated formula. Because we spend less, we can tax less. And we have made historic progress in that regard. Last year, the lowest middle-class tax rate since 1953. Lowest corporate tax rate since 1968. Lowest manufacturing tax rate since 1917. So by controlling the spending at 2%, we can continue to keep taxes down. If we continue to keep taxes down, we keep businesses coming our way. And that's exactly what our goal for this year should be, starting with small businesses. Small businesses are 98% of all the businesses in New York. Small businesses are where the jobs are being created. That is the lifeblood. Anything we can do to generate small business is what we want to do. We want to have a tax cut for small business that is dramatic, that would take the small business taxes from 6.5% down to 2.5%, the lowest rate in 100 years, and send a real positive signal. And that will show that New York is continuing to be a pro-job, pro-growth state. The next taxes we have to attack are the property taxes. Now, here's a quote. The public is at least coming to realize that the increase in real estate taxes is due wholly to the increase in the cost of local and not state government. These taxes on real estate are too high. Local government has in many communities been guilty of great waste and duplication. Who said that quote? I'll give you a hint. Me, Secretary Hillary Clinton, FDR, Ronald Reagan, Steve Aquario. It is not Ronald Reagan. It is not Hillary Clinton. It is not me. It is down to Steve Aquario and FDR. And if it is Steve Aquario, he is fired. So it is FDR. But that shows how long this problem has actually been going on. It has been New York's chronic problem. And when people complain about high taxes in New York, they're talking about the property tax. Just remember this. The number one business tax is the property tax. The highest tax we collect in the state of New York is the property tax, $50 billion total compared to $40 billion for everything else. We attacked it over the past 4 years. 2011, we capped it. 2014, we froze it. 2015, we're going to cut it and really respond to the needs of homeowners all across this state. Let's pass a 1.7. We have proposed a $1.7 billion property tax relief for 1.3 million homeowners who will save an average of nearly $1,000 per year, and $1,000 in savings can make a difference in people's lives. We would also extend relief to over 1 million renters in the state. When you put the two together, 2.3 million households, just under 1 million upstate, 800,000 New York City, 340,000 Long Island, 139,000. This is real, meaningful, significant tax relief that will make a difference in people's lives and send a very strong signal that the New York we brought you for the past 4 years is the New York that we're going to continue. A growing economy also needs to invest in its infrastructure. We've started a very aggressive infrastructure redesign program downstate with John F. Kennedy and LaGuardia airports, also with Stewart and Republic airports, planning our regional airports as one unit. We want to make Republic and Stewart, Republic is on Long Island, Stewart is in the mid-Hudson, we want to make them tax-free zones so we can bring businesses to Republic and Stewart and take some of the traffic from JFK and LaGuardia and move it out to the Long Island and Stewart Airport. We also want to build 4 Metro North stations in the Bronx to open up that side of the Bronx. Hoorah. I have a name for one of the stations. Diaz Station, we're going to call it. Ruben Diaz Station. We'll invest $150 million to construct vertical parking structures at strategic locations in Long Island and Westchester to assist commuters coming in on the LIRR. We also propose using $1.2 billion of the settlement funds to protect thruway toll payers for a year, so there'll be no increase in the thruway toll for the next year, and to help finance the Tappan Zee Bridge. We're also working with our partners in Washington to secure federal funding to fund the public transportation over the bridge. Congresswoman Nita Lowey has taken the lead in this, as has Congressman Peter King, and they've been very, very helpful. Infrastructure today is less about roads and bridges, in my opinion, and it's more about broadband. A state that doesn't have broadband is not going to be economically successful going forward. Believe it or not, we still have 500,000 homes and 4,000 businesses who have no access to broadband. It tends to be in upstate New York, and it tends to be in poorer communities in New York City. The last place, really, we should have the absence is where we have it. We want to invest $500 million, leverage $500 million in private sector money from the broadcast providers, and let's get New York State fully wired so every business, every home can compete, and let's start doing that now. And there's a new way of thinking about growing jobs in New York State. Jobs are coming out of our higher education system. You look anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, as a matter of fact, where you see regional job growth, and it's always linked to the higher education institutions. And we're in the process of taking our SUNY and our CUNY system and turning them into commercialization and job generators. You look at Stanford University in Silicon Valley, that was an academic exercise that was actually commercialized extraordinarily well and started an entire revolution in the economy. That can happen here in New York, but we have to make the investment. And we have to invest in SUNY 2020 and CUNY 2020 so we know we have the best higher education institutions to provide educations and also to jumpstart the economy. We've been doing it. We want to continue to do it with another $50 million investment this year that I believe will reap dividends. We want to couple that. We want to couple that with a New York State venture fund of $100 million so New York State can invest in many of those young entrepreneurs and many of those startup companies and keep them here in New York rather than finding equity in California or Texas or Florida. Let's invest in our homegrown companies and keep the jobs here now. We also have significant reforms for our community college system. Our community college system, in many cases, is charging students exorbitant tuition, running up debt, giving them training and education for jobs that don't exist. And the person graduates the community college system, has the debt, but can't find a job. More and more, the community college system, where successful, is turning into a training program, almost an apprentice program, for a specific industry. That part of the training is they design what they need, the skills they need. You go to that community college, you get that degree, you come out, you graduate, you go right in to that company. And that's what we have to be doing with our community colleges. We want to link them regionally with the employers in that region, identify specific jobs that are available, and then educate and train for those jobs to make the community college system more rewarding. Past 4 years, we have focused on upstate New York and economic development like never before. I would venture to say there has never been a more concerted effort at developing upstate New York than what we have done over the past 4 years. And upstate was in a terrible cycle of decline. It was losing economic power through no fault of its own, change in the economy, businesses were moving away. But when you lose economic power, you start to lose people. When you start to lose people, you start to lose political power because the loss of population literally relates to loss of political power, which results in loss of government attention, and now you are on a downward cycle. And that's where upstate New York was for many, many years. And it was not getting the care and the attention it deserved. We reversed that cycle. We made upstate New York a priority. We invested. That grew political power. That grew population. And now you see the reverse. And just the way there's a negative synergy, I believe there's a positive synergy. And I believe if you go to a lot of these cities in upstate New York, you feel a totally different energy than you felt 4 years ago. And that is the turnaround that we're talking about. You look at where the unemployment rate dropped. Historically, the unemployment rate, when it dropped, would drop in New York City, and it would stay static upstate New York. You look at these unemployment numbers, and you see how balanced our economy is. The days where downstate flourishes and upstate suffers are over. And this is a very balanced picture and a very balanced economy. The Regional Economic Development Councils are working. They're working extraordinarily well. It was a new idea that said we're going to organize region by region across the state because there is no one economy. There are regional economies. Put everyone at one table, all the politicians, all the business people, all the academics come up with one regional strategy, and then everybody works on that one regional strategy. That's exactly what we've done. It's been a great success, a tremendous amount of work. The former Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy served as chairman of the Regional Economic Development Councils. He carried the weight on his shoulders. He attended hundreds and hundreds of meetings all around the state, and he inspired this process. Let's give him a big round of applause and a moment of recognition. Stand up, Bob. Come on, stand up. He's the best. We also embarked on a truly ambitious enterprise to turn around Western New York. Now, Western New York, Buffalo, was the single greatest economic problem in the state of New York. Western New York, Buffalo, North Country, and pockets of poverty down south in the Bronx especially. Western New York and Buffalo had been down for so long, they didn't even believe they could come back. I remember when I first started speaking to groups in Buffalo 4 years ago, I would give them my best economic development pitch, and not a single muscle in a single face would move. They had heard it all before. Everybody was leaving. The population was shrinking. Nothing was going to help Buffalo. Nothing was going to turn it around. Well, we did turn around Buffalo. And Buffalo today, the housing market is way up. You have construction, billions and billions of dollars in construction. The private market is flocking to Buffalo. They're writing about Buffalo internationally as a turnaround phenomenon. That's what happened in Buffalo. And it proved to us, if you can turn around Buffalo, you can turn around anything. And we're going to. And we had a great team. We had a great team that worked at it every day and made the difference. And I'd ask them to stand, and let's give them the recognition they deserve. Paul Deister, Byron Brown, Mark Polenkars, Howard Zemsky, and Satish Tripathi. Pleasure. We also propose expanding our green jobs and our environmental programs. The sweet spot for the state of New York is creating jobs in the clean energy, clean environment area. And that's where we want to focus. We want to increase the Environmental Protection Fund to $172 million. We also propose a $50 million farmland preservation fund, $20 million of which will be dedicated to the Hudson Valley, which is one of the precious assets in this state. It is a tourism asset, and we want to keep it that way. And $30 million to strengthen the Southern Tier's rich and growing agriculture industry, because they need help in preserving their lands. To spur new investment in green jobs in the Southern Tier, we want to hold a $20 million clean energy competition. Let's invite companies internationally to bring their best ideas to the Southern Tier. We will take the best ideas in clean energy companies. We will invest in them if they cite and grow in the Southern Tier. We did this in Buffalo. It worked magnificently well. Now let's do it for the Southern Tier. We also want to expand the upstate economy by investing $65 million in ports and hubs, from Albany to Oswego to Syracuse to the Port of Ogdensburg to the Binghamton Rail Yard. You have to be able to move goods in and out, and this investment will help make it possible. We also want to invest in the State Fair. The State Fair is symbolically and economically important. The State Fair is just that. It's the State Fair. It gets a tremendous number of visitors from all across the state to demonstrate the state's development, the state's beauty, the state's resources. The truth is the State Fair makes money for the state, over $130 million. But the State Fair, in truth, reflects yesterday's New York. It does not reflect today or tomorrow's New York. Let's reimagine the State Fair. Let's invest in it. Let's be proud of it. Let's get a private sector company to come in and partner with us and invest $50 million and really turn around the State Fair the way the state is turning around. Fort Drum is a great North Country asset. We're going to spend $1.5 million to buy an additional 1,300 acres for training and $25 million for improvements along Route 26. Fort Drum is the home to the 10th Mountain Division, which just returned from serving us proudly in Afghanistan. And I visited the 10th Mountain Division while they were in Afghanistan. I'm the person in the picture with the pen in his pocket, you can tell. I wasn't on really serious duty. But the 10th Mountain Division is the most deployed force since 9/11. Just think about that. And 323 soldiers have been lost by the 10th Mountain Division defending our freedom. And we honor their sacrifice, and we have representatives of them here today, and we'd ask them to stand so we can honor you. Tourism continues to be a successful jobs generator, especially in upstate New York. At one time, we had a very robust I Love New York advertising campaign. Over the years, it went away. We started to bring it back. We got more creative in the way we've been marketing the state. We spent over $100 million in advertising over the past 4 years, and our investment has been paying off exponentially. Visitor spending is up $8 billion to $62 billion, believe it or not, 8% higher than the national rate of growth. That's Watkins Glen International, by the way, and that's a very famous New Yorker driving that car on that track. The license plate number 56 is a clue. Our tourism jobs increased by 83,000 to a total of 850,000, double the national rate of growth. That's the walkway over the Hudson. We want to continue this international attention to upstate New York with our challenges and our $25 million investment in the I Love New York, the Adirondack Challenges, the Governor's Cup, the fishing challenges, the promotion of our wine industry, which is doing great. And we want to continue this effort because it's been reaping dividends. We also want to expand our global markets as the next step. We want to set up a global export-import bank. The federal government has one. I worked with it when I was in the federal government, but it has a tremendous impact. And if we capitalize our export-import bank with $35 million, I believe we're going to see multiples of that as dividends. We're going to be leading trade missions to New York's top economic partners, including Canada, China, Israel, and Mexico. I'm going to invite the leaders to come with me on these. We went to Israel last year, and we had a great trip. And this year, we're going to be our own version of the Three Amigos. A little different than the past, but the same basic idea. So we will ride again. We'll also lead a trade mission to America's newest economic partner, which is Cuba. And we would like to be one of the first states to Cuba, just from a competitive point of view economically. Let us be the first one there. Let us develop the relationship. Let us open the markets, and let us get opportunities for New York companies. Our economic recovery must reach all New Yorkers, and there are New Yorkers who are still left in the shadow of opportunity. The sad truth is, with all the growth in the economy, poverty still exists in this country, and poverty still exists in the state of New York. Two of the poorest communities in the state of New York, and those orange areas are areas where they have poverty greater than 20%. But two of the poorest are Rochester and the Bronx. Rochester has the highest child poverty rate in the state, and the Bronx has the highest overall poverty rate in the state. We want to build on our successful efforts, first at employing minority youth. We have a strike force that's been working in the Bronx. It's been working very well. We want to add $10 million to get young people jobs, keep them off the street corner, give them a positive path to follow. In Rochester, we are creating an anti-poverty task force to lift children and their families out of poverty. And we're starting that now. Pope Paul said, if you want peace, work for justice. And that's just what we're trying to do. We have the highest income inequality since the 20s. And for too many, the dream of economic mobility has been replaced with the reality of stagnation. Many people believe if you are born poor, you're going to die poor. And that is the exact opposite of what the American dream promised. The American dream was all about mobility. And wherever you start, you can move forward and you can move up. That was the beauty of this country. And that's why people came. It didn't matter if you were rich or you were poor, if you were white or you're black. You came here and you could be whatever you wanted to be. You had a chance to do it. This country never guaranteed success, but it did guarantee opportunity. And that promise is slipping away. And we have an agenda that will work to bring it back. First, we believe we should raise the minimum wage. We raised it once. We believe the gap continues to get worse. We would raise the minimum wage to $10.50 statewide, and in New York City, which is a high-cost area, to $11.50. Minimum wage is very simple. We believe if you work full-time, you should be able to pay the rent and pay for food and not live in poverty. That's the basic promise of employment, and we're not there yet. We still have a hunger problem in this state in many communities. Let's invest $4.5 million to expand our emergency food access, because in 2015, there is no excuse why any man, woman, or child should go hungry in the state of New York. And to provide housing and affordable housing, we want to increase our investment by $486 million. Let's do the affordable housing we need. Let's do the community development we need so we don't wind up with homeless people in the first place. On the chronic issue of unemployment for minority men, We have a urban youth jobs program that provides the employer with a training subsidy if they hire a young person. We'll pay for the training and we'll also subsidize part of the income. We've hired over 20,000 young men with this program. It works. Let's keep it going and double the funding and double the jobs. 4 years ago, the state's procurement goal for minority and women-owned businesses was 10%, which was about $800 million in state contracts were set aside for women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses. We raised that 10% to 20%. Last year, we surpassed the 20% and we went to 25%, which was $2 billion in state contracts that went to women-owned companies and minority-owned companies. This year, we want to take it even to a new level, a national level, set the highest goal in the nation, and go to 30%, $2.4 billion for minority and women-owned businesses. Many of our new college graduates face high student loan debt as they begin their career, and it's a troubling situation because they have high debt and low wages. We want to help them get on their feet for their first 2 years. If they come out of college, they have high debt and a job where they earn less than $50,000 per year, which is the level at which they probably can't afford to pay off their debt. We'll pay the debt for the first 2 years so they can get their feet under them and they can get on with their lives. We have a vast array of not-for-profits and community development organizations in this state that are really an untapped potential that we want to bring into the mainstream and we want to develop to access state programs. We want to grow the capacity through a new office of faith-based community development services, going to be led by Assemblyman and Pastor Karim Kamara. Let's give him a round of applause. Congratulations, Karim. He only gets one yay. Give him more than one yay. Yay! We'll also invest $50 million in the not-for-profit sector on a capacity building fund to get them the technical skills they need to do it. Education, the great equalizer. And this is the area, my friends, where I think we need to do the most reform, and frankly, where reform is going to be difficult, given the situation of the way education is funded in this state. Our education system needs dramatic reform, and it has for years. And I believe this is the year to do it. This is the year to roll up our sleeves and take on the dramatic challenge that has eluded us for so many years, for so many reasons. We will pursue an ambitious P-12 agenda. Professionalize teaching and increase standards, strengthen teacher evaluations, reward excellent teachers, transform states' failing schools, expeditiously but fairly remove ineffective teachers, expand charter schools, pass the ETC and the DREAM Act, extend mayoral control, continue support for 4-year-olds in pre-K. Let's do them one at a time. We want the best teachers in our classroom. Every study says the quality of the teacher makes a difference in the school. We must start treating teaching like the profession that it actually is. In 2013, this legislature put in place a quote-unquote bar exam, an entrance exam for teachers. Last year, every prospective teacher had to take a 12th grade literacy test. Of the teachers who took it, 32% failed a 12th grade literacy test, and these are teachers who are about to walk into a classroom. These are teachers who we're giving to our children. We need a real set of standards for entering the profession. And we also want to recruit the best and the brightest, and I believe you have to incentivize for that. We are proposing that we will pay full tuition for SUNY or CUNY for the top graduates if they commit to going to teach in New York schools for 5 years. And we will create a residency program to give teachers early training, just the way we do with doctors. Now, everyone will tell you nationwide, the key to educational reform is a teacher evaluation system. Why? So you know what teachers are doing well, what teachers need work, and what teachers are struggling. A teacher evaluation system. New York has talked about it for years and years and years. We were supposed to implement the teacher evaluation system 5 years ago in exchange for receiving federal money called Race to the Top. The schools were reluctant to do it. Last year we said if a school didn't complete a teacher evaluation system, they wouldn't get state funding, the excess funding. Lo and behold, 100% of the teachers now have a teacher evaluation system. 100% of the schools adopted a teacher evaluation system. That's the good news. We have teacher evaluation systems for every school in the system. The bad news is they are baloney. Now, 38% of high school students are college ready. 38%. 98.7% of high school teachers are rated effective. How can that be? How can 38% of the students be ready, but 98% of the teachers effective? 31% of 3rd to 8th graders are proficient in English, but 99% of the teachers are rated effective. 35% of 3rd to 8th graders proficient in math, 98% of the teachers rated effective. Who are we kidding, my friends? The problem is clear and the solution is clear. We need real, accurate, fair teacher evaluations. We asked the State Department of Education for their ideas, and they gave us their feedback, and we accept their recommendations. To reduce the overtesting of students, we will eliminate local exams and base 50% of the evaluation on state exams. Second, the other 50% of the evaluation should be limited to independent classroom observations. Teachers may not be rated effective or highly effective unless they are effective in both the test and the observation categories. We will stop local score inflation, which has resulted in virtually all teachers being rated, by setting scoring bands in the state law. We propose tenure to only be granted when a teacher achieves 5 consecutive years of effective ratings. And once we have a fair evaluation system, we can incentivize performance. And we will. I believe the teacher evaluation system should be used to incentivize and reward high-performing teachers. And if a teacher is doing well, incentivize that teacher who's doing well and pay them accordingly. We would pay any teacher who gets highly effective a $20,000 bonus on top of the salary that that teacher is getting paid, because we want to incentivize high performance. In 2013, we created the Master Teacher Program, which rewards the highest performing teachers in the system. Today, we have 552 master teachers. These are the best of the best. These are mentors to their colleagues. They have achieved the highest tests on scores. They are teachers who go above and beyond and give more to their students than anyone has a right to ask. We're joined by them today. Let them stand so we can honor them and thank them for their contribution. For teachers who need support after the evaluation, we will offer a teacher improvement plan to get them the help they need. In the unfortunate case, we have a chronically ineffective teacher who, despite our help, does not improve. We must protect our students by removing the chronically ineffective teacher from the classroom. Under the current 30/20A system, it is so hard to remove an ineffective teacher that most districts will tell you that they don't even try. We'll follow SED's recommendation and reform the process to make it easier, fairer, and faster to remove ineffective teachers from the classroom. We propose allowing a district to remove a teacher after 2 ineffective ratings unless the teacher can show that the scoring was fraudulent. Let's remember, my friends, I know these reforms are tough, but the purpose of the education system and why we do this and why taxpayers give us money to fund education is so that we can teach and nurture our children. This was never about protecting and growing a bureaucracy. It was about helping young people. It was not about creating an educational industry that then supports ancillary organizations. Let's remember the children in this process, and then we'll wind up doing the right thing. We must acknowledge that while education should be the great equalizer, right? Education is what made the American dream a reality. My father could go from behind a grocery store and through public education become governor. Colin Powell could grow up in the Bronx through public education, could become head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. For too many, it is now the great discriminator. And the truth is we have 2 systems. We have one for the rich and we have one for the poor. And the greatest symbol of disparity is our failing schools. Students in failing schools lag well behind in virtually every academic category. State average for graduation is 76%, failing school 47%. Worse, more than 9 out of 10 students in failing schools are minority or poor students. 9 out of 10 minority or poor students. There are 178 failing schools in New York State. 77 have been failing for an entire decade. Over the last 10 years, 250,000 children went through those failing schools while New York State government did nothing. Just think about that. And that has to end this year. I understand the obstacles to abuse. I also understand what our students need to move forward. We should be ashamed of those numbers. The education industry's cry that more money will solve the problem is false. Money without reform only grows the bureaucracy. It does not improve performance. State average per student, $8,000. State average in a high-needs district, $12,000. Failing district in Buffalo, which has been a failing district for many, many years, state spends $16,000 per student. So don't tell me if we only had more money, it would change. We've been putting more money into the system every year for decades, and it hasn't changed. And 250,000 children were condemned to failing schools by this system. Let's end it this year. We'll take another recommendation from SED and propose using the Massachusetts model in New York. When a school fails for 3 years, a not-for-profit, another school district, or a turnaround expert must take over the school. And they must create a plan to dramatically overhaul and improve the entire school. We'll turn each school into a community school and develop a management overhaul plan. The takeover entity will overhaul the curriculum, override agreements and terminate underperforming staff, provide salary incentives, and grant priority for pre-K extended learning community schools, early college, high schools, wraparound services. So we're giving the students the services they need, but we're making the changes that we have to make. In this mix, charter schools provide a viable option for many of our students. We propose giving students in failing schools a preference in the charter school lotteries. The current charter cap is 460. There are 159 slots left, only 24 available slots left for charter schools in New York City. We want to add another 100 to the cap and allow the cap to be statewide to eliminate any artificial limits on where charter schools can open. To ensure that charter schools are serving all of the public, we will propose an innovative anti-creaming legislation to ensure charters are teaching their fair share of high-needs populations English language, learning disabled, and free lunch, so no one can say that the charter schools aren't taking the same cross-section of public students that the public schools have. All students deserve a fair shot at the American dream, and that's why we want to pass a $100 million education tax credit for public and private sector partnerships, and let's pass the DREAM Act for $27 million in this budget, and let's make it a reality. If we're serious about fixing this problem, then cities also have to be part of the solution. We're calling on the mayors to join us. Let's extend mayoral control in New York City, where Mayor de Blasio has taken control of the school system. Let's give him a round of applause. And let's consider the possibility in other cities where we have chronic long-term problems with the education system, and let other mayors step up to the plate, and we will work with them in that regard. We know that the earlier students enter a classroom, the more opportunity for success they have. Therefore, we've committed $1.5 billion to phase in full-day pre-K for 4-year-olds, and we're excited about that. We'll invest another $365 million this year in pre-K for 4-year-olds, but we also want to take the next step. And we want to start designing programs not for 4-year-olds, but for 3-year-olds. All the studies say the earlier you get them in, the better. Let New York be ahead of the curve by enrolling 3-year-olds who are now making some of the largest cognitive and behavioral gains. We're going to start this with a $25 million offering for pre-K for 3-year-olds. We know mentoring programs work and make a big difference. And we know that there are citizens who want to help and will get involved in mentoring. New York once led the way in mentoring, which has now become an international phenomenon, and was started really right here in the state of New York, which birthed the idea so others could learn from us. I say we should once again lead the way in mentoring, and we will. We're going to set up a mentoring commission, and it will be led pro bono by Mrs. Matilda Cuomo. Stand up. My mother worked on mentoring for many, many years, and she's now doing it all across the world, and she's made a great difference. So let her help New York, because it all starts at home, Mom. Pro bono, you understand why pro bono. Christopher will subsidize you. We propose, if we pass these reforms, and this is an ambitious reform package, and I understand there's going to be political problems for people on both sides of the aisle, and they will be besieged by lobbyists, and I understand the political consequence of what I'm asking you to do in making these reforms. But if we want to really invest in the system, then make it the right system. And don't ask the taxpayers of New York to throw good money after bad. We've done that for decades. Let's make the hard choices once. Let's stand up for the kids once. And if we make these reforms, I am prepared to make a very large investment in education. By our formula for this year, which is in the budget, our education formula would have the budget go up by 1.7%, which is $377 million. That's what we agreed to last year in the budget when we took the personal income growth formula. So by our existing budget, it would be a $377 million increase. If the legislature passes these reforms, I propose a 4.8% increase in the budget, a $1.1 billion investment in education, because it will be the right education system. Again, that's if we actually stand up and pass these reforms. Public safety, 9/11 marked the beginning of our war on terrorism, not the end. If anyone doubted that, Paris was a reminder to all of us. And it's not Paris. The terrorist groups are metastasizing all across the world. It's actually worse than it was in 9/11, and it's only continuing to get worse. Terrorists have evolved and they've adapted, and we must do the same. This fall, we doubled the National Guard, Port, and MTA police and state police in key areas because of the heightened alert. Given the recent attacks overseas, I believe we should continue our surge levels with state troopers, 300 National Guardsmen in areas where they have a potent presence, which will cost the state $40 million, but I believe it's a worthwhile investment to keep New Yorkers safe. We'll be conducting a security review of our state's counterterrorism capacity. MTA, airports, train stations, port authorities, state police, how they're coordinating and how they coordinate with local authorities. And we're asking Ray Kelly, the state special advisor on Homeland Security, to do that for us. This year we'll be investing $15 million to open the nation's first emergency preparedness college in the country. It'll be in Albany with a satellite campus in Oriskany. Literally the first Homeland Security college in the United States is going to be right here in New York. We propose creating a $15 million storm online system to coordinate federal, state, and local emergency responses and efforts when it happens. This is an online system that when there's a snowstorm, when there's a hurricane, a town, a village, a county can go online, give a status of what they need. We can track what they need. It also tracks the costs So when we later go back to FEMA for reimbursement, we have an actual record that was done at the same time. We're also going to be training all local emergency personnel in Albany, so everyone is trained on the same emergency protocol. The towns, the villages, the county, the state, everybody's trained on the same protocol, and everybody knows what the other people are doing. In a weather emergency, we need the right equipment. We've learned that the hard way a number of times. We propose investing $50 million in snowplows to keep our roads open. One of the reasons we close roads is we can't keep up with the amount of snowfall. If we had a higher number of snowplows, we could actually keep up with a higher rate of snowfall. And I think it's a worthwhile investment. Also emergency vehicles, and we want to equip the state's fleet with GPS so we know where they are at all times and we know how to deploy them. Government reform, we've talked a lot about what we can do today, what we have done, what we need to do. We is us. We is the committee that they call government. And the more people trust government, the more people trust us, the more capacity we have to do good work. And we need to continue to restore the public's trust. It's an unending process, in my opinion. Let's pass real campaign finance reform. Let's pass public financing. Let's pass a pay commission to reduce the influence of money in our government and increase the amount of trust. Our social justice agenda has several points. Number one, we are proud of the reforms we've made to the justice system, including closing more prisons than any time in our history. But New York is one of only 2 states in the United States where 16-year-olds are treated as adults for criminal responsibility. One of only 2 states. A 16-year-old who gets convicted of a crime is now put in state prison at 16 years old. And state prisons are no place for a 16-year-old. And any expectation that you're going to put a 16 or a 17-year-old in a state prison and you're going to rehabilitate them, or you're going to teach them, or they're going to come out better than they went in is wholly unrealistic. Last year, we convened a panel on how we should right the injustice. This year, the panel came back and said, let's raise the age of criminal responsibility to get 16 and 17-year-olds out of the adult prisons where they're being hurt, not helped. And let's have a set of facilities and systems for 16 and 17-year-olds. In terms of justice, the promise of equal justice is a New York promise, and it is an American promise. We are currently in the midst of a national problem where people are questioning our justice system. And they're questioning whether the justice system really is fairness for all, and whether the justice system really is colorblind. And that's not just New York. It's a problem all across the country. And it's a problem in reality, and it's a problem in perception. And if it's a problem only in perception, it is still a real problem, because people have to trust the justice system. And the trust has to go both ways. The community has to respect and trust the police, and the police has to respect and trust the community. And we have to work to restore that trust and that respect. And we're proposing a 7-point agenda to do just that. First of all, a statewide reconciliation commission on police and community relations, so we can have a dialogue, community by community, where the community can talk to the police and the police can talk to the community in a safe situation and a safe setting with frankness and candor to work through issues. Number two, the state should help police forces statewide recruit more minorities into law enforcement. The more the police force looks like the community they're policing, the better the job the police can do. Third, we believe we should provide race and ethnic data on police actions statewide. We have nothing to hide. Transparency works. Let's give people the actual facts. Number four, we need to do everything we can do to keep our police safe. These are dangerous, dangerous jobs, especially during these times. We should fund replacement vests, body cameras, bulletproof glass for patrol cars in high-crime areas. Fifth, district attorneys may issue a grand jury report or a letter of fact explaining proceedings if there is no true bill on a police fatality, so people know what actually happened in that proceeding and in that grand jury. Sixth, I will appoint an independent monitor who will review police cases where a civilian dies and no true bill is issued, and the independent monitor can recommend a special prosecutor be appointed. The independent monitor should have access to the grand jury information, which will be protected, but this way the independent monitor can actually make an intelligent recommendation because they'll have all the evidence and they'll have all the facts. I think these 7 points will go a long way towards restoring trust, restoring respect, both ways, from the police to the community and the community to the police. And let's start now. We'll be working on this over the next several months, but it's a good start. That is our justice agenda, and as I mentioned, it's a work in progress, and we'll be working with all parties. Women are still not treated equally to men. We must pass the full 10-point women's equality agenda. It's been too long. New York State now has more schools being investigated for sexual assault than any state in the nation. 11 colleges being investigated on how they handle sexual assault, believe it or not. This is just wholly unacceptable, and it's repugnant to our basic belief that women have equal rights and we protect women equally. Let New York take the lead in protecting these young adults and these students. Last fall, SUNY Chancellor Zimpher passed a really leading proposal which requires affirmative consent for sexual relations to ensure and ensures a woman's access to law enforcement. All too often, when a woman is victimized on a campus, the recourse is campus police, and the tendency is to keep it private because it's embarrassing for the university, and all too often, justice is not done. The statistics show 1 out of 4 young women will be sexually assaulted while she's in college. 1 out of 4 women. And the rate of reporting is in the single digits. And to make matters worse, the experts believe it's a small number of men who are committing these acts, but a high level of recidivism because they're not being reported. And that is the trap that we're in. So what we did on SUNY campuses, women need to affirmatively consent, and then women are assessed of their rights. They can go to the campus police, or they can go to the local police, or they can go to the state police. And they can treat it as the crime that it is. It's working on SUNY. It has been working on SUNY. We want to make it a law that covers every college in the state of New York. And we want to be the first state to do that. We have more homeless today than ever before in the history of the state of New York, and that is just simply a disgrace. We want to increase our homeless budget by $403 million, a 20% increase in light of the increase in homelessness. On the numbers, this is what the agenda looks like. And this is as simple as the budget is. We've discussed before, when it's done right, the budget is a fairly simple exercise. The state total, the budget would go up 1.7% total. We have a 2% spending cap, so we are under the 2% spending cap at 1.7. State agencies are at 0.6. That means state agencies are basically flat. Parks, state police, Department of Transportation, et cetera. They're basically flat. They're flat because we give a 3.6% increase to Medicaid, which is the formula amount, and it anticipates the 4.8% to education. For us to afford a 4.8% increase on education and 3.6% on Medicaid and stay under 2%, the rest of the state budget basically has to be zero. And that's our budget. 0% increase for the agencies, 4.8% for education, 3.6% for Medicaid, and it comes out to 1.7%. The new initiatives that are within the state budget, which we went through and how they're funded, property tax renters relief is $350 million, affordable housing $150, SUNY CUNY, increase in homelessness, Startup New York, $50 million, not-for-profit, I Love New York. Those are the initiatives that we just went through. They are funded from the normal state budget. This year, we have settlement funds of $5.4 billion. These are funds that were basically a gift from above. They were settlements with law enforcement agencies where the state received the penalty. It comes out to $5.4 billion. Our proposal for the $5.4 billion is as follows. $850 million is money that we owe the federal government for a discrepancy in past billings, which we have been working through for years, but it's going to come out to about $850 million. We would spend $1.5 billion on upstate revitalization. Those are the three $500 million revitalization grants to 3 regions, upstate New York, and then $3 billion on infrastructure and other investments. The other investments are, as you see here, through a stabilization fund, protects this toll for 1 year and invests in the Tappan Zee, high-speed broadband, upstate hospitals, which are in terrible need of repair and reconstruction, 4 Metro North stations for the Bronx, the parking garages for Long Island and Westchester for the Long Island Railroad, government efficiency grants, emergency response, upstate ports, state fair, and the Southern Tier Farmland Initiative comes out to the $3 billion, and that resolves the settlement funds. That is the budget in a nutshell, and the state of the state in a nutshell. One last point, if I might. One of my colleagues, who's an assemblyman, we were talking about this outline of these issues the other day, and the assemblyman said, wow, this is going to be really hard because these issues are not New York issues. These problems are all national problems. And that is true. Failing schools are a national problem. Struggling older cities is a national problem. Questioning of our justice system is a national problem. So he's right. They are national problems. But he's wrong if he thinks that we can't solve them. Because, my friends, that is precisely what we do here together as New Yorkers. And that's what New York has always done. New York is the state that leads, and it always has. We were the first state to stand up for freedom of religion. This state passed an emancipation law before Abraham Lincoln was even born. We passed the first housing reform to guarantee living conditions in tenements. We passed the first law protecting women's property rights. Albany County, first county in the nation that allowed women to sit on juries, right here in Albany County. That is New York, because while Washington fights and gridlocks, we find compromise and we move forward. Why? Because Washington defines itself by their differences, and we define ourselves by our commonalities. Because their politics divide and our politics unite. That's the difference between Albany and Washington. Because we have a different belief. We believe in community. And we believe in the concept that we are all connected. We don't believe we are all individuals on our own. We believe there's a connection that binds us, that there's a cord that connects me to you, to you, to you, and that cord weaves a fabric, and when one of us is raised, we're all raised, and when one of us is lowered, we are all lowered. And those are not just words. That's the way we live. That is the way we operate. Lieutenant Governor was talking about the snowstorm in Buffalo, 7 feet of snow. It was an impossible situation. It overwhelmed everything. And people from all over the state dropped everything and came to Buffalo to help. And there was a National Guardsman. I went up to the National Guardsman to shake his hand to say thank you. And he said, Governor, you don't remember me. We met in the North Country. No need to say thank you. You came to help us when we had Hurricane Irene. It was a plow truck from Nassau County. And I climbed up on the step and I shook hands with a plow truck driver. I said, how long did it take you to get here? 13 hours to drive a plow truck from Nassau County to Buffalo. I said, wow. I said, we are so grateful. And he said, no, Governor, everybody came to us when we had Hurricane Sandy. Everybody came, and we're just repaying the favor. New York City sent up 100. New York City, Mayor de Blasio sent up 100 firefighters and all the equipment. And the same thing with the FDNY. I said, thank you for coming. And the firefighters said, after 9/11, when the entire world showed up to help us, the New York way is one for all and all for one. And I thought, you know what? It is that simple. And it comes down to that simple wisdom. And the Buffalo coins we made for the people who helped during Buffalo say exactly that. All for one and one for all. And that really is the New York way. And that really is the New York credo. The power of we. The power of we. Putting the differences aside, finding the commonalities and coming together. That's how we've been governing. Because we believe, despite our differences, at the end of the day, we are one state. We're upstate and we're downstate, but we're one state. We're Democrats, we're Republicans, but we're one state. We're gay, we're straight, but we're one state. We're black, we're white, but we're one state. And that's how we govern. And that's how we come together. And that's how we forge an agreement. And that's what makes this state so special. And that's why I am so honored to be the governor of this great state. Because the problems are not any one region or any one person. The young girl who sleeps in a homeless shelter tonight is our daughter. The farmer in the southern tier who is struggling to make ends meet, that farmer is our brother. The child that lives in poverty in Rochester today is our child. That's how we govern, because that's how we live. As usual, the man who said this best was a New Yorker and a former governor. He was a statesman, and he was a visionary, and he was a giant. He was your friend, and he was my father. And he said, and I quote, "Those who made our history taught us above all things the idea of family, of mutuality, the sharing of benefits and burden fairly for the good of all. It is an idea essential to our success. And no state or nation that chooses to ignore its troubled regions and people while watching others thrive can call itself justified. We must be the family of New York, feeling one another's pains, sharing one another's blessings, reasonably, equitably, honestly, fairly, without regard to geography or race or political affiliation." My father was right then, and he is right now. That is the New York spirit. That is the New York essence. That is what makes us special and makes us the greatest state in the nation. That is the philosophy that has brought us 4 years of balanced budgets and 4 years where this state has seen more progress than in the past 40 years. And that is the philosophy that's going to take this state to new heights with the good work of this body, working in partnership, working together, and working with respect for all of us. We are going to make this state a better state. And Pop, wherever you are, and I think I know where, for all the ceremony in the big house and all the pomp and circumstance, please don't let me forget what makes New York, New York. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 2015 Opportunity Agenda. Thank you for joining us.